Viewers, till now we were under complete darkness regarding the deity world and the demonic world. We were being told that these exist elsewhere and not on earth. The same is the situation with regard to the God as well. We are divided to the level of having individual opinions about God. This is because we are far away from the truth. We are full of adharma, meaning unrighteousness. We are in an abode which is called Asura Loka, meaning abode of clashing opinions. Opinions are clashing at individual level today. Thus, it is the peak of adharma. Logically, now is the time when God comes, as said in Gita verse 7 of chapter 4. And today there are no wooden chariots, and no such wars of bows and arrows happen, as shown in the Gita. This picture on the cover page of Gita is a concept with wonderful metaphorical meaning. Let us use a similar strategy, a practical strategy that we used to understand the concept of heaven and hell in our earlier episodes, and thereby know about God in the simplest way possible. This is a popular verse from Kathopanishad, which means this body, which is the other, the para, is the chariot, and this Atma, which is nothing but Swa or the self in English. The self is power of mind plus intellect, is its owner, the charioteer. The body is the chariot, and the self, the soul, is the charioteer. The buddhi, which is one of the faculties of the self, is its driver. The mind, which is another faculty of the self, is its reins. The indriyas, meaning the bodily senses, plus the indriya vishaya, meaning the sense objects, are the horses pulling the chariot. Thus, the Atma, the self, or the mind and intellect, enjoy or suffer through the horses. One drives his own chariot using the buddhi faculty of self, the soul. But in case of Arjuna, the Bhagavan, the self buddhi, is driving his chariot. Bhagavan has become the power of both the faculties of Arjuna's self, the auspicious intellect, and he is leading in the place of the soul, in the body of Arjuna. The seat of the soul is in the Uttamang, meaning the highest part of the body, in between the eyebrows. In Gita verse 10 of chapter 7 and 17 of chapter 13, Bhagavan says, I am Buddhi, I am the Jyoti, meaning I am the intelligence, I am the light. Bhagavan's self form is Buddhi or Jyoti. In Sanskrit, Bhagavan's form would be called as Buddhi Swarupa or Jyoti Swarupa, and he has occupied Arjuna's body. Arjuna's chariot body is called Linga in Sanskrit. Hence, Bhagavan may be said as Jyotirlinga. The self form of Jyoti has taken a body. Hence, he would be called as Jyotirlinga. Linga means the idol. Arjuna's body is the idol for the Bhagavan. Hence, clearly Bhagavan is unipresent, not omnipresent. In verse 19 of 9, Bhagavan has been said as sun, which is self-illuminated, because Bhagavan is self-illuminated with the knowledge. He himself is the auspicious intellect, and like the sun is always just one, but its light is absorbed by all the living and non-living on earth. Similarly, God's light of knowledge is absorbed by all the human beings on earth. So his knowledge is omnipresent, he is not. And as said in Gita verse 4 of 8, he is Adhiyajnaha. Adhiyajna means the one who is the Lord of the Yajna, and Yajna is the sacrificial fire of knowledge of establishing righteousness in this world. In this verse, he addressed Arjuna as the Deha Bhratamvara, which means best of the bodily beings. And the verse means that, O best of the bodily beings, I am inside this body who is the Lord of the sacrificial fire of knowledge. And he is like the self-illumined sun, who is the leader in that body. And the word for leader in Sanskrit is netra. So, he is the Surya Netra. The same terminology has been used in the verse 19 of 11. So, it is very clear that Bhagavan is unipresent and his knowledge is omnipresent. Why does God take divine birth by way of self-manifesting himself in a body? We learnt in the episode where we covered the word human being in detail. We said that the soul, which is the self, the power of mind and intellect, is inactive without the body and vice versa. Just like a plant seed is full of potential energy but becomes active only when it is sown in the earth. Similarly, the subtle seed or soul becomes active only when it is in union with the body. But when a soul becomes active in the fetus in the womb of a mother, like all of us humans, then we the souls forget the past birth or births. But Bhagavan, who is also a soul, who is never born, also would forget like us if he was born through the womb of a mother. Then who would remain to teach us righteousness at the end of Iron Age when we become completely unrighteous? Hence, one soul remains unborn, and the only time it plays its role is at the end of the Iron Age by self-manifesting. Bhagavan also needs a body to activate the self, the only auspicious intellect or the supreme soul. God, the unborn soul or intellect, self-manifests. The proof are these verses. In verse number 6 of chapter 4, Bhagavan says, despite being the best ruler of living beings and despite being unborn, I, the Supreme Soul, am Akshay, meaning soul whose power never reduces. Take the support of my incognito or secret nature and have a divine birth through the power of soul, his own soul. This procedure is called Swayam Bhava, self-manifest. In another verse, 7 of 4, he says, when the rise of irreligions happen at the end of the Iron Age, it is then that I, myself, have birth, which in Sanskrit would be, myself is Swayam, I have birth means Bhu, Swayam Bhu. In verse number 18 of chapter 9, Bhagavan says, I am the master of the knowledge. I alone am the creation, destruction, position, foundation, and the imperishable seed of knowledge. As said in 9:18, Bhagavan, being the auspicious intellect, is the only one who possesses the knowledge of how the mind-born creation happens through Brahma, that is A, position and maintenance, which is said as U, Vishnu's U, and Mahesh's Ma, through whom the destruction happens. And Bhagavan possesses the intellect with the knowledge of these three tasks. And he is the master, the Prabhu. Prabhu is formed of two words, Prakrishta Bhuti, meaning magnificent manifestation. Thus Bhagavan is the Lord of A-U-Ma or Om, which in Sanskrit would be called Omkareshwar, Omkarnath, Ek Omkar. Om is the three tasks, Kar means the tasks, Ishwar means the Lord. So God is the one who has the knowledge of how these three tasks have to be carried out. In the chapter 9, the verse number 11, Bhagavan says, foolish people disregard me, the Bhagavan, who takes the support of human body. Those foolish ones don't know the subtle quality of my best form in the form of Lord of the living beings. So this clearly suggests that no one recognizes God nor his chariot. And also, this verse emphasizes that God takes support of a human body. And we have seen that God occupies only Arjuna's chariot, so he takes the body of Arjuna. How did Bhagavan take the support of Arjuna's body? The answer is in the verse number 54 in chapter 11. Bhagavan says, I am capable to enter, accompanied by 5 elements, which is the body, to be seen, to be known, recognized, to, through an unadulterated remembrance. He has taken the body of Arjuna. So Arjuna's body is his identity. He is seen through Arjuna's body, and he can be remembered through Arjuna's body. So clearly, Bhagavan has entered in the body of Arjuna. And we have also understood that no one knows neither Arjuna nor Bhagavan. And nobody knows that Bhagavan is unipresent and not omnipresent. In verse number 15 of 10, Arjuna says, Supremes among the souls, Supreme Father, O the one who gives mind-born birth to living beings through knowledge, O Lord of beings, O deity of deities, O Lord of the world, you yourself know your real form through yourself, which means God alone has to tell what he is, how he comes, who Arjuna is. All the knowledge has to be given by God. And he alone, when he self-manifests, he is the Lord of the world. And the world specifically is at the end of the world, which we have said is called the Vishwa. And the Lord of Vishwa is called Vishwanath. In the verse number 12 of chapter 13, Bhagavan says to Arjuna, that who is knowable, knowing which the heaven is felt, I will tell about that he, the beginningless, Supreme Brahma, Supreme Soul, is said to be neither atomically proven, true, nor untrue. When Bhagavan self-manifests, he is being addressed as Param Brahma by Arjuna. Param Brahma is said to be the Supreme Guru of all. Now the Supreme Guru is saying to Arjuna that knowing this Supreme Guru, the heaven is felt because he alone has the knowledge of heaven. Bhagavan himself has to tell that knowledge. And he is called as beginningless because he is not born. He has only self-manifested. And the body is not his own. It is Arjuna's body. So he remains beginningless always. And he is said as both true and untrue because he has self-manifested, thereby he exists, he is seeable, yet he is not true because it is not his own body, he is still incorporeal. Param Brahma, the self-manifested, most worship-worthy bodily form, deity of deities, the one who teaches deityism to the humans, would be called as Mahadeva, the Lord of immortal or Amar deities, because he is the one who teaches the knowledge of heaven, the knowledge of immortality. In Sanskrit, the Lord of immortals would be called as Amarnath. The Param Brahma, the Supreme Guru, is all-pervading, all-penetrating, or omnipresent by his knowledge, but he is unipresent in Arjuna alone. In the verse 14 of chapter 13, God says, the incorporeal on entering in the permanent chariot, in whom all the qualities of senses are perceived. When God enters the body of Arjuna, he can perceive all the qualities of that body. Yet he is devoid of the senses and he remains unattached, yet sustains everyone, and although devoid of the 3 modes or attributes of nature, Sata, Raja, Tama, yet their enjoyer. In verse number 12 of chapter 10, Arjuna praises Param Brahma, saying that you are Ajam, Divyam, Vibhum, Adidevam, meaning you are unborn, divinely or specially manifested, first divine form. And when the Bhagavan is in the bodily form, he displays infinite righteous qualities. Hence, he is called the first divine form or Deva. The word Vibhu is formed of two words, Vi plus Bhu or Bhuti. Vi is used for mentioning specialty, varietiness, or even the opposite. So, Bhagavan is both special Bhuti, meaning special manifestation, yet he is opposite of Bhuti because he has no attachment to that body. He remains devoid of the senses of that body. Hence, in both ways, he is Vibhuti, specially manifested, as well as he is not Vibhuti. The holy ashes are also called Vibhuti, one who remains incorporeal even when he is in the corporeal form, one who is devoid of all the senses of that corporeal body, is called Vibhoga because he does not enjoy or he does not get attached to the senses of that body. Hence, he is called Vibhoga, which would be he is manifested but detached. In other words, called as Vairagi. Bhagavan self manifests in the body of Arjuna, so he is a special Bhuti but Vibhogi, a complete Vairagi. And the only deity who is shown as a Vairagi is Mahadeva. The greatest Vairagi, Vibhoga, as said in the verse 322, where God says, I do not have any work in the three worlds, yet I come and complete the task in a very detached manner. In verse number 8 of 9, Bhagavan says, every end of Kalpa I self manifest and recreate the people and leave them again for the world cycle. And in the verse number 9 of chapter 9, Bhagavan says, I do these tasks in the most detached manner. Thus, he has manifested only to destroy the Iron Age unrighteousness in the most detached manner. Thus, he has manifested only to destroy the Iron Age unrighteousness. We request the viewers to watch the 3 series and the episodes within the series. We request the viewers to watch the 3 series and the episodes within the series in the numbered sequence. We have used questioning technique where each and every point is questioned, answered in the most practical manner, supported by religious scriptural references and other authentic evidences, and thus are arranged in logically meaningful flow.